November 30th, 2014, from Ralph Wilson Stadium at Buffalo, New York. It was the Cleveland Browns at the Buffalo Bills. The Bills won the toss. They elected it first. The Browns would take over first in this game. They started off on their own 22, but after 5 plays, they would punt from the 42. So now Buffalo would take over with about 12 and a half minutes left in the first. They had on their own 29. On first down, Orton hit Woods for a 13-yard pass to make it a first down on the 42. Then they would end up punting from the 46. So now the Browns would take over on their own 5-yard line with about 11 minutes left in the first. They would end up picking up some first downs and moving the ball into Buffalo territory. And on 3rd and 5 from the 22, Hoyer hit Josh Gordon for a 13-yard pass and made a first and goal on the 9. And then on first down, West ended up fumbling the ball, but it actually ended up being reversed and being called a 2-yard run. So now it was 2nd and goal from the 7. Kroll ran for 3 yards. It was now 3rd and goal from the 4, and an incomplete pass would bring out Billy Cundiff to attempt a 22-yard field goal. So that put the first points on the scoreboard, as it was now Cleveland 3, Buffalo 0. So now Buffalo took over with a little less than 5 minutes on the clock. They would end up punting after 4 plays from their own 29. So now Cleveland would take a ball with about 3 minutes left in the first, and they would go 3 and out. So now Buffalo would take over with less than 2 minutes left in the first quarter. They had on their own 38. And on 2nd and 4 from the 44, Orton hit Gray for a 30-yard pass that made it a first down on the Cleveland 26. Dixon then ran for 2 yards and brought the first quarter to a close. So after 1 quarter play, the score was Cleveland 3, Buffalo 0. So now to begin the second quarter, Buffalo would have the ball on their own 24. It was 2nd and 8. Orton then went to Woods. He picked up 13 yards in the first down at the 11. Then on 3rd and 6 from the 7, Orton was intercepted by Leinart. And so now the Browns would take over on their own 20 with about 13 minutes left before halftime. They would end up going backwards on an offensive holding penalty. They would end up being faced with 2nd and 20 from the 10. But then there was a penalty against the defense for holding. And now it would be 1st and 10 from the 15, and a false start would bring them back once again. But then on 2nd and 15 from the 10, Hoyer hit Hawkins for a 9-yard pass, and then Hoyer went to Gordon for a 9-yard pass and was now a first down on the 28. Then on 2nd and 7 from the 31, Hoyer hit Austin for a 30-yard pass and was now first down on the Buffalo 39. Then on 3rd and 10 from the 39, Hoyer went to Dre. He picked up 16 yards and a first down on the 23. Their drive would stall on the 19, and out would come Billy Cundiff to attempt a 37-yard field goal. It was up, and it was no good. So the score remained 3-0, Cleveland over Buffalo. So now the Bills would take over with about 7.5 minutes left before halftime, but they would go 3 and out and punt it to Cleveland, who would also go 3 and out as they punted it back to Buffalo, who now got the ball with about 3.5 minutes left in the second quarter. They had it on their own 25. They picked up a first down, but then they would end up punting the ball. So now Cleveland would get it back. They had it on their own 24 with less than 2 minutes left on the clock before halftime. They picked up a first down, but then on 2nd and 10 from the 35, Hoyer was intercepted by Cersei. And it would now be Buffalo ball on the Cleveland 46 with less than a minute left. They would get down to the Cleveland 35, and out would come Dan Carpenter to attempt a 53-yard field goal with 1 second on the clock in the second quarter. It was up, and it was blocked by Joe Hayden. And so the score remained 3-0, Cleveland over Buffalo at halftime. And so now in the third quarter, the Bills would start things off. They had it on their own 20, and on 3rd and 5 from the 25, Kyle Orton was intercepted by Joe Hayden. So in the last possession of the first half, you had that blocked field goal, and on the first possession of the second half, Joe Hayden gets an interception. So now the Browns got the ball, but they would go 3 and out as they didn't take advantage of the opportunity. And so now Buffalo would get it back on their own 16 with about 12 minutes left in the third. Kyle Orton then hit Fred Jackson. He ran 20 yards for the first down at the 36. Then on 2nd and 6 from the 40, there would be a penalty against the defense, which would make it a first down on the Buffalo 45. Orton then went to Woods. He picked up 11 of the first down in Cleveland territory at the 44. Then on 3rd and 4 from the 38, Fred Jackson ran for a yard, and that brought up 4th and 3 on the 37. They elected to go for it, and Kyle Orton hit Woods for a 34-yard reception. There was interference on the play, but it was declined as it was now 1st and goal on the 3 for the Bills. Kyle Orton then hit Hogan for a 3-yard touchdown pass, and that put the Bills on the scoreboard as they took the lead for the first time in this game, with the score now Buffalo 7, Cleveland 3. So now the Browns will get the ball with about 8 minutes left in the quarter. They had it on their own 20. And West ended up fumbling it. He got blown up by Hughes. He forced the fumble and recovered it, and Hughes ran it back 18 yards for the touchdown. So it was now 14-3 Buffalo over Cleveland. There was even a holding penalty against the Browns that was declined. So now the Browns will get the ball on their own 20 with a little less than 8 minutes left in the quarter, and they would go 3 and out as the Bills defense came up with a huge defensive stop. So now the Bills would take over on their own 38 with about 6 minutes left in the quarter, but they would end up punting 5 plays later from the Cleveland 42. So now the Browns took over on their own 16 with about 3.5 left in the third, but they would go 3 and out and punt from their own 15. So now the Bills took over with less than 2 minutes left in the third. They had it at midfield at the 48, and on 3rd and 5, an encroachment penalty would give them a first down on the 38. So now they would end up getting a penalty and moving backwards on the last play of the third quarter as they had 12 men on the field. So after 3 quarters of play, the score was Buffalo 14, Cleveland 3. Now to begin the fourth quarter, the Bills were faced with 1st and 15 on the Cleveland 43. Fred Jackson then ran for 8 yards, and Brown ran for 4 yards. It was 3rd and 3, and Orton threw an incomplete pass. And out came Dan Carpenter to attempt a 49-yard field goal. It was up, it was good, and the Bills were now up by 14 with the score 17-3, Buffalo over Cleveland. So now Cleveland would take over on their own 20. They ended up with a 2nd and 6 from the 24, and Hoyer was intercepted by Cersei once again. And so now the Bills would take over on the Cleveland 21 with 13 minutes left in this game. They wouldn't go very far as they would end up having to settle for a field goal from the 16 as Dan Carpenter came out to attempt a 34-yarder. It was up, it was good, and it was now Buffalo 20, Cleveland 3. So now Cleveland would end up going to Johnny Manziel as they pulled Hoyer after all the interceptions, and Johnny Manziel was under center. And Johnny Football on his first play ended up scrambling for 3 yards. Then on his second play, 2nd and 7 from the 23, Johnny Manziel drops back to pass, and he hits Miles Austin for a 12-yard reception on his first pass. So now it was a first down on the 35. Crow ran for 11 yards and was a first down on the 46. Johnny Manziel then went to Josh Gordon, and he picked up 18 yards and a first down on the Buffalo 36 as they moved the ball across midfield and into Buffalo territory. An incomplete pass by Manziel then brought up 2nd and 10 from the 36, and Johnny Manziel hit Dre for a 24-yard pass and a first down on the Buffalo 12. West then ran for 2 yards, and on 2nd and 8 from the 10, Johnny Manziel takes it up the middle himself on a broken play. He scrambled and brought it in from 10 yards out for the touchdown. Johnny Football, as the Browns were now within 10. So the score was now Buffalo 20, Cleveland 10, as the Browns scored their first touchdown of the game with that 10-yard run by Johnny Football. So now the Bills would take over with less than 9 minutes left in the fourth quarter. They had on their own 20. They would then be faced with 3rd and 1 from the 29, and Kyle Orton hit Gray for a 41-yard pass that brought the ball across midfield into the Cleveland 30. Then on 3rd and 1 from the 21, Fred Jackson picked up a yard in the first down at the 20. They would end up not getting further in the 16, though, as Dan Carpenter would come out to attempt another 34-yard field goal. It was up, it was good, and Buffalo now extended their lead to 13 with the score Buffalo 23, Cleveland 10. So the Browns would take over with 3.5 minutes on the clock, needing 2 touchdowns to win this game. They had it on their own 14. They would end up being faced with 4th and 6 from the 18. Manziel dropped back, and he hit Miles Austin, and he picked up 5 yards, and he was just shy of the first down. They ended up challenging the ruling on the field of the spot of the ball, and it was actually confirmed, and it was short, and they turned the ball over on downs, and now Buffalo would take over. So the Bills had the ball on the Cleveland 23, And after a few plays, out would come Dan Carpenter to attempt a 35-yard field goal. It was up, it was good, and Buffalo now led by 16 points with just less than 30 seconds on the clock, as the score was now Buffalo 26, Cleveland 10. The Browns got the ball back. West ran for 18 yards, and this game came to a close. So the final score, Buffalo 26, Cleveland 10. And with the win, the Bills are now 7-5 on the season, 4-3 at home. The Browns are 7-5 as well, and they're 3-3 on the road. And in this game, Kyle Orton was 17 for 31 with 190 passing yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions. Brian Hoyer was 18 for 30 with 192 passing yards and 2 interceptions. And Johnny Manziel was 5 for 8 with 63 yards. He also ran for a touchdown. He had 2 carries for 13 yards and the rushing touchdown. The game's leading rusher was Fred Jackson with 21 carries for 70 yards. And the game's leading receiver was Miles Austin with 86 yards off of 7 receptions. Josh Gordon also had 7 receptions for 75 yards. And for Buffalo, Robert Woods and also MarQueis Gray both had 71 yards. Woods had 4 receptions. Gray had 2 receptions. And the leading tackler in this game was Nigel Bradham of the Buffalo Bills. He had 12 tackles. He also had a sack. And Preston Brown had 11 tackles for the Bills. And the leading tackler for Cleveland was Craig Robertson. He had 11 tackles. And in this game, the Browns had 1 sack, and that was Bryant, who had the lone sack. And Buffalo had 2 sacks. As we said, Bradham had a sack, and the other sack was Kyle Williams. The Browns actually had 2 pickoffs. Leinart and Hayden each had a pick. The Bills had 2 pickoffs as well, and they were both by Cersei. So Buffalo wins this game. There's a lot of defense and a lot of field goals. Johnny Manziel scored his first touchdown in the NFL. But it wouldn't be enough as the Buffalo Bills win this game with a final score 26-10. Buffalo over Cleveland.